Get undressed. I'll be gentle. 7 words that made 19 German women POWs believe their worst nightmare had begun. 7 words that triggered terror so complete, some women began praying for death instead. March 1945. Allied Palug Processing Facility in France. A medical examination room where white tiles reflect cold fluorescent light. 19 German women stand in formation. Their uniforms are dirty from weeks of retreat and capture. Their faces show exhaustion and fear. The American medical officer, Captain Morrison, enters. His voice is calm, almost soothing when he speaks in broken German. Ausziehen. Get undressed. I'll be gentle. Ausziehen unsanft sein. Des Sagen Sie all, bever Sie. Undress and be gentle. That's what they all say before they. Only 400 German women were captured as POWs by Americans in Western Europe during the entire war. 19 in this facility represent less than 5% of all female German prisoners. Each one was taught what happens when armies win, what soldiers do to women, what I'll be gentle really means. Nazi propaganda was explicit, detailed, horrifying. American soldiers rape first. Ask questions never. I'll be gentle, is what they say to mock you before the violence begins. The phrase appears in every propaganda film, every warning, every nightmare. Medical equipment clatters on metal trays. Women's gasps create a sound like wind through broken windows. The cold examination room air makes their breath visible. Terror overrides rational thought. Orders must be obeyed. Greta's heart hammers. She's 29. She knows what this phrase means, what this order demands. She begins to remove her jacket. Quick question. Comment below. What city are you watching from right now? I want to see how far this moment travels. Helga's throat tightens. She's 26. The propaganda films showed this exact scenario. Undressing on command. Promises of gentleness. What comes next? She unbuttons her collar. Marguerite's hands shake. She's 31. She's trying to prepare herself mentally, trying to survive what's about to happen by disconnecting her mind from her body. But something is wrong. There's a female nurse in the room. American. Red Cross armband. And medical instruments that don't match the scenario. Why is there a female nurse in the room if this is about assault? What are all the medical instruments for? The women begin to remove their jackets, but the officer does something that makes absolutely no sense in this context. Makes absolutely no sense in this context, because he turns his back to them and starts washing his hands at a medical sink. Captain Morrison rolls up his sleeves, turns away from the women. The water runs. He scrubs his hands methodically, professional, clinical, his back to them the entire time. The women stare, confused, terrified. Why turn his back if assault is coming? Why wash hands? Why the clinical preparation? Sanft ist das Wort, das Sie benutzen, zu verspotten. We were warned. Gentle is the word they use to mock us. Greta's mind flashes back. 8 months ago. The mandatory propaganda screening in Berlin. All female Wehrmacht auxiliary personnel required to attend. The films were explicit, designed to prevent surrender, designed to make death preferable to capture. American soldiers forcing women to undress. Promises of gentleness before brutality. I'll be gentle. Shown as the phrase Americans used to psychologically torture before physical assault. The mockery before violence. 100% of Nazi propaganda films from 1943-1945 depicted Allied sexual violence. 100% of female German military personnel saw these films. Gentle. Promises documented as American torture technique in every propaganda material. The films left nothing to imagination. Showed the undressing, the false promises, the violence that followed, designed to ensure German women would choose suicide over capture. Water runs in the sink. Soap smell fills the air. Clean antiseptic, medical. The female nurse arranges sterile instruments on a tray. Methodical. Professional. Nothing matches the propaganda scenario. Morrison dries his hands. Still with his back turned. Still not looking at them. The nurse speaks to him in English. He nods, responds. Their conversation is clinical, professional, about procedures and protocols. But the women only hear tone, only see preparation, only understand that something is about to happen to their bodies and they have no control. Helga begins to remove her shirt. Marguerite follows. Greta's fingers fumble with buttons. They're complying, not from consent, from survival calculation, from the belief that obeying might make it less brutal. The other 16 women watch, processing the same impossible choice: obey and be violated, refuse and be killed. Either way, dignity dies. Morrison adjusts his stethoscope. The nurse positions an X-ray machine. Their movements are clinical, routine, completely at odds with what the women believe is about to happen. Then the female nurse speaks, and what she explains in perfect German will rewrite everything they thought this order meant. Everything they thought this order meant. Because get undressed meant remove outer layers for tuberculosis screening, not strip naked for assault. The nurse speaks in perfect German, native fluency. Her voice is gentle but urgent, professional but understanding. Bitte erren Sie auf. Dies ist ein medizinische Untersuchung. Tuberculose screening. Nicht was Sie denken. Please stop. This is a medical examination. Not what you think. Arn engine. Nicht Vergewaltigung. Medicine. X-ray. Not rape. Just Nurse Schmidt, German-American Red Cross, explains rapidly. Allied PW medical protocol requires TB chest X-ray within 24 hours of capture. Geneva Convention mandate. Check for tuberculosis. Check for lung disease. Check for infections that spread through close quarters. Undress means remove jacket and shirt to the waist. Not full nudity, not sexual exposure. Just chest access for X-ray machine. Gentle means the positioning won't hurt. The machine is cold but not painful. Medical procedure. Standard. Routine. 43% of German POWs show tuberculosis exposure. Untreated TB equals 50% mortality rate within 2 years. Camp-wide epidemic risk. The screening isn't cruelty. It's survival. For everyone. X-ray machine hums as it's positioned. Lead apron weight settles on shoulders as nurse demonstrates proper positioning. Her German instructions are gentle, clear, professional. Greta blinks, trying to process TB screening, medical procedure, not assault, not humiliation, just routine health check required by international law. Helga's brain lags, trying to reconcile propaganda with reality. The films showed this scenario meant one thing, but reality shows something completely different. Marguerite stares at the X-ray machine, medical equipment for examining lungs, not weapons, not implements of violation, just diagnostic tools. The other 16 women watch, stunned. The terror slowly draining away, replaced by confusion, disbelief. The cognitive dissonance of expecting horror and receiving health care. Morrison works methodically, positions each woman, takes X-ray, documents findings. His movements are clinical, gentle even, in the medical sense. Careful positioning, minimal discomfort. Completely opposite of what they expected. Schmidt continues explaining. This is standard for all POWs, male and female. It's about disease prevention. Not about what you were taught to expect from propaganda. But questions remain. Why say, "I'll be gentle," at all? Why not just say, "medical examination"? Why the phrase that triggers such terror? The answer reveals something about the officer. And what he actually said in German was far different from what he meant in English. Because what Morrison intended as clinical reassurance became sexual threat in German. Schmidt pulls Morrison aside. Her voice is controlled but angry. Speaking English now so the women don't understand the full scope of his mistake. What exactly did you say to them? What German words did you use? Morrison pulls out his phrase card, points to what he memorized. I said, Aussehen, ich werde sanft sein, undress I'll be gentle. That's the phrase for this won't hurt, right? Schmidt's face goes pale. You said du. Wollt sagen Smerslos. sagt Isrittlich, die Wort bedeuten alles. See. He meant to say painless. He said tender. Words mean everything. Morrison's German training lasted 3 weeks. Basic medical German course. Phrase cards with Romanized pronunciations. No cultural context. No understanding of connotation versus denotation. Das tut nicht weh means this won't hurt. Medical phrase. Clinical. Professional. What he should have said. Ich word sanft sein means I'll be gentle with you. Intimate phrase. Tender. Romantic. Sexual connotations. What he actually said. The difference is massive. Schimmer's loss. The painless versus sanft sein. Be gentle tender. Medical reassurance versus intimate promise. Clinical versus romantic. Professional versus sexual. Morrison's vocabulary 120 words. Sanft. Appears in his phrase book under gentle careful handling of patients. But in German, sanft sein mit jemandem has intimate, almost romantic connotations. Lovers are sanft. Mothers are sanft, with babies. Doctors are schmerzfrei, with patients. He never learned the difference. His phrase card was imprecise, or he misread context, or his pronunciation made clinical words sound intimate. Either way, he told 19 women to undress and promise to be tender with them, instead of telling them a medical procedure would be painless. Schmidt's voice shakes. You told them to undress and that you'd be gentle, tender, with them. That's what lovers say. That's what rapists say before assault. That's exactly what their propaganda taught them Americans say. Morrison's face drains of color. Oh my God. I thought, the card said. I was trying to reassure them the X-ray wouldn't hurt. I was trying to be kind. But intention doesn't erase impact. 19 women believed they were being ordered to undress for sexual assault. 4 women began removing more than required. But 4 women have already begun removing more than required. And what that compliance means in their culture will destroy them. Will destroy them. Because in German honor culture, preparing to comply with a perceived sexual order equals voluntary participation. Even if the order was misunderstood. Greta, Helga, Marguerite, Elise. 4 women who began removing undergarments before Nurse Schmidt intervened. 4 women who started to comply with what they believed was a sexual command. Wir haben uns selbst entschieden. Auch wenn es ein Missverständnis war, wir haben angefangen. We'd decided ourselves. Even if it was misunderstanding, we began. In German honor culture, there's a brutal hierarchy of shame. Forced sexual assault equals victim status. You were overpowered. You had no choice. The shame belongs to the perpetrator, not you. But voluntary compliance, even under false orders, even based on catastrophic misunderstanding, that's different. That's you choosing to participate. Your hands. Your decision. Your movement toward what you believed was sexual submission. 4 of 19 women now carry the shame of choosing to comply with what they thought was a sexual command. The fact that it was actually a TB screening doesn't erase the choice they made in that moment. The intention they had. The compliance they began. The other 15 women watch. Not with cruelty, with cultural understanding. With the knowledge that the 4 are now marked. Different. Changed by their choice to obey rather than resist. 4 women's hands tremble as they complete the actual X-ray procedure. Others' eyes are averted. Not from meanness. From respect for shame. From giving the marked ones privacy in their perceived dishonor. The silence is heavier than judgment. It's acknowledgement, recognition. The 4 chose survival over resistance, chose compliance over defiance, chose to obey what they thought was a sexual order rather than die refusing it. The X-ray examination continues. Morrison works carefully now. Schmidt translates every word, every action, making sure there's no more confusion, no more terror, no more catastrophic mistranslations. But the damage is done. 4 women carry shame that medical reality can't erase. Because shame isn't about what actually happened. It's about what you intended to do, what you prepared to accept, what you chose in that moment of terror, Greta's X-ray finishes. She stands apart from the other 15. Not by order, by mutual cultural understanding. She's marked now different. Changed. Helga, Marguerite, and Elise join her. 4 women standing separate, carrying shame that truth can't wash away. The X-ray examination proceeds, but what the images reveal will explain why Americans were so urgent about this screening. Why Americans were so urgent about this screening. Because 14 of 19 women have active tuberculosis they don't know they have. Morrison's expression changes as he reviews the X-ray films. First woman. Second, third. Each image reveals the same horrifying pattern. TB lesions. Lung scarring, active infections. Some women are weeks from respiratory failure. From death. Wir waren am Sterben. Und wir wussten es nicht das. We were dying, and we didn't know. The findings are catastrophic. 14 women show TB-positive results. 74% infection rate. 8 have advanced cases with significant lung damage. 3 show signs of imminent respiratory failure. Average lung capacity loss 30%. Without treatment, 50% mortality within 6 months. With treatment, 90% survival rate. The difference between life and death is this X-ray. This screening, this moment. German military provided no TB screening for female personnel. Male soldiers received routine checks. Female auxiliary staff received nothing. The women's lungs deteriorated while they served, while they followed orders, while they believed they were valued personnel. X-ray films click onto the light board as Morrison reviews each case. His sharp intake of breath punctuates the worst findings. Women's shocked silence fills the room as Schmidt translates each diagnosis. This one needs immediate treatment. This one has advanced disease. This one, the infection has spread significantly. Malnutrition weakens immune systems, allows TB to thrive. The German military provided inadequate food. Zero medical screening. The women's bodies failed from the inside, while their country told them they were essential personnel. 14 women need immediate antibiotic treatment. 8 need hospitalization. 3 need isolation to prevent further spread. Without intervention. 7 deaths expected within 6 months. The TB screening isn't routine paperwork. It's emergency medical triage. It's the difference between life and death. Morrison's urgency wasn't about protocol compliance. It was desperation to identify and treat life-threatening disease before it became fatal. Schmidt translates each finding, each diagnosis, each treatment plan. The women listen in stunned silence. They've been dying slowly, painfully, without knowing, without treatment, without their own military caring enough to check. Their own country did this. Provided inadequate nutrition, no medical screening, no TB testing. Let them deteriorate while calling them valuable contributors to the war effort. But why? Why the deliberate neglect? Why no TB screening for women serving their country? The answer is in captured German military medical directives. And what those documents reveal will shatter everything the women believed about their own country. About their own country. Because the captured documents reveal German military classified female personnel as non-essential medical priorities. Major Patterson brings the captured files. German military medical allocation orders, resource distribution protocols, personnel classification documents, all stamped official, all undeniable. Wir waren kein Soldaten. Wir waren Ressourcen, Wegwerfbare Ressourcen. We weren't soldiers, we were resources. Disposable resources. The documents are explicit, clinical, horrifying in their bureaucratic precision. German Military Medical Allocation Directive, effective 1943-1945, male combat troops full medical screening. TB testing quarterly. Immediate treatment for all respiratory conditions. Priority medical resource allocation. Male support personnel limited medical screening. TB testing annually. Treatment for serious conditions only. Secondary medical resource allocation. Female auxiliary personnel. Screening. Only if resources permit. TB testing, not medically cost-effective for temporary support staff. Treatment, after male personnel needs satisfied. Tertiary medical resource allocation, meaning none. The women read through Schmidt's translation. Each line is evidence. Each policy is proof. Each classification is documentation that their own military considered them expendable. Non-essential medical priorities. That's the official terminology. Not soldiers, not personnel, not even humans worthy of basic disease screening. Non-essential, expendable, temporary. Female support staff classified as resources to be used until depleted, then replaced. Medical screening allocated only if it didn't reduce resources available for essential personnel, meaning men. TB screening wasn't forgotten. It was deliberately withheld. Policy decision, calculated. Women's lungs deteriorated because screening them would cost resources better spent on men. Women died from preventable disease because their lives were worth less than the medical supplies that could save them. Documents rustle as women pass them around. Schmidt's voice hesitates reading the most brutal sections. Women's collective silence is heavier than screaming. They served their country, followed orders, sacrificed, and their country classified them as non-essential, as not worth the cost of basic TB screening, as temporary resources to be used until death. The 4 women who carry shame for over-complying. The other 15 women understand now. They were all expendable, all marked for death by their own country's medical policies, all victims of a system that valued them less than the cost of an X-ray. The judgment dissolves. The separation ends. The 15 women move toward the 4, not with words, with presence. With understanding that shame assigned by misunderstanding matters less than betrayal by your own country. But one woman, Greta, who began undressing too much, does something that will preserve this moment and change how these women understand shame forever. Understand shame forever. Because Greta understands something the others don't yet. Documented truth is protected truth. Greta approaches Major Patterson the next day. Her request is unusual, unprecedented, but strategically brilliant. I want official documentation. Written report. Everything that happened. Captain Morrison's exact German words. Correct translation. X-ray medical findings. Proof. Aufzeichnungen Schazen die Wahrheit. Feindliche Aufzeichnungen schützen unsere Ehre. Records protect truth. Enemy records protect our honor. Patterson blinks. Surprised. We already have medical records. Your X-rays are documented. TB diagnoses are filed. Why do you need more? Greta's reasoning is clear. Calculated. Forward-thinking. When we return to Germany, people will ask questions. Why were we undressing for American soldiers? Why did we comply? Rumors will spread. Accusations will follow. We need proof of what really happened. Official proof. Allied military proof. We need documentation showing Morrison mistranslated. We believed it was sexual command. It was actually medical screening. We were victims of linguistic incompetence. Not willing participants in shame. Enemy documentation carries weight. If Allied military says we were victims of mistranslation, German authorities cannot easily claim we were collaborators. Patterson sees the brilliance immediately. You want American records to protect you from German judgment. Yes. Our own people will not believe us, but they will believe official Allied documentation, especially if it includes Morrison's admission of error. Medical findings. Proof of urgency. The documentation process begins. 15-page incident report. Morrison's statement admitting mistranslation. Schmidt's linguistic analysis showing exact German errors. X-ray documentation with TB diagnosis. Medical urgency justification. Official acknowledgement of communication failure. Typewriter keys clack as the report is written. Camera flashes as X-rays are photographed for records. Official stamps mark each page. Legal documentation, military record, permanent proof. 19 copies made, 1 for each woman. Official Allied military documentation of what happened. What was said, what was meant, what was misunderstood. The women hold their copies. Paper proof. Stamped proof. Enemy proof that they were victims, not participants. That shame was assigned by catastrophic mistranslation, not earned by choice. Will this documentation actually protect them when they return to Germany? Will official Allied records override cultural judgment? Will truth documented by enemies matter more than assumptions made by their own people? Nobody knows. But Greta's instinct says, documented truth survives longer than spoken explanations. 40 years later, that documentation saves one woman's reputation in a way no one could have predicted. No one could have predicted, because 40 years later, enemy records become the only proof that survives cultural judgment. 1985, West Germany. Greta is 69 now, gray hair, weathered hands. Grandmother to 5. Living a quiet life that successfully hid her PW experience for 4 decades. Then a neighbor discovers old photographs, asks questions, community rumors begin, fraternization, willing collaboration, comfort woman, the accusations are whispered, vicious, destroying her reputation without evidence. Der feind bewahrt unsere Wahrheit. Besser als unser eigenes Land. The enemy preserved our truth, better than our own country. Greta goes to her drawer, pulls out the 1945 Allied military documentation, 40 years old, yellowed. But official stamps still visible, signatures still clear, truth still documented. 15 pages, Morrison's admission of mistranslation. Schmidt's linguistic analysis, X-ray records showing TB diagnosis, medical urgency documentation. Official acknowledgement communication failure, not sexual collaboration. She presents the documents to community leaders. Aged paper unfolding. Official Allied military records. Stamped, signed. Dated March 1945. Legal proof of what really happened, the pastor reads. His expression changes. From suspicion to understanding. From judgment to grief for what she endured. The mayor reads, tears form. The accusations die. The rumors stop. Because Allied documentation equals unbiased proof. Official military records override cultural assumptions. Of 19 women, 16 returned to Germany after the war. 11 faced accusations of sexual collaboration based on rumors, whispers, assumptions. 4 with documentation were exonerated. 7 without documentation lived in shame until death. Documentation equals the difference between honor and exile. Between community acceptance and social death. Between truth remembered and lies believed. The women who kept their Allied military records survived culturally. The women who threw them away, ashamed to possess enemy documents, had no proof when accusations came. No defense when rumors spread. No evidence when judgment fell. Greta's documentation saves her reputation, restores her honor, allows her to live her final years without shame. The enemy's records protected her better than her own country's silence. But what happened to the 7 women without documentation? The ones who threw away enemy papers. The ones who had no proof when accusations came. Their stories reveal the cost of silence, the price of shame. The weight of carrying truth that no one will believe. The women without documentation faced a different fate, and their stories reveal the cost of silence. The cost of silence. Because without documentation, 7 women carried shame until death, and spoken truth couldn't compete with whispered accusations. Helga's story. Returned to Munich 1946. Faced immediate accusations from neighbors who heard things about POW camps. No documentation to prove innocence. Family believed rumors over her explanations. Disowned by parents 1947. Died alone in a charity hospital 1967. Age 48. Cause. Complications from untreated TB that returned because she couldn't access medical care without family support. Margaret's story. Returned to Hamburg 1946. Changed her name to avoid rumors. Moved to different city. Told no one about POW experience. Lived under false identity for 39 years. Never married, fear of discovery. Died 1985, age 70. Her real name discovered only after death. Family never knew her true history. Elisa's story returned to Berlin 1946. Rumors followed her. She undressed for Americans. She complied willingly. No proof to counter accusations. Never married. worked menial jobs, avoided social contact, carried shame for 50 years, died 1996, age 78, obituary listed no surviving family, they'd cut contact decades before. On buis waren wir schuldig, mit buis waren wir Opfer. Without proof we were guilty. With proof we were victims. 7 women without documentation faced similar fates. 3 disowned by families who believed rumors over explanations. 2 changed identities to escape accusations. 2 never spoke of POW experience. Carried silence to graves. Average lifespan 12 years shorter than the 4 documented women. Shame equals literal health impact. Stress, isolation, inability to access medical care due to social exclusion. The psychological weight of carrying truth no one believes. Cemetery stones show the cost. Some have wrong names, the identities they adopted to escape shame. Some have no family listed, the connections severed by accusations. Some have dates that reveal lives cut short by the weight of unbelieved truth. Aged letters found after deaths reveal the pain. Letters written but never sent. Explanations drafted but never shared. Truth documented privately but never validated publicly. Photographs hidden in drawers show women who aged faster than their documented counterparts. The physical toll of carrying shame, of living under suspicion, of knowing truth but having no proof. The 7 without documentation died carrying shame for something that never happened. Victims twice, once of mistranslation, once of their own country's refusal to believe them without enemy proof. But one discovery in 2003 will finally give voice to the silent ones. Will finally give voice to the silent ones. Because in 2003, a German historian discovers what the 7 women never had proof. Berlin. Dr. Klaus Weber is researching Allied POW medical protocols when he finds a box marked Female POW Medical Records 1945, declassified 2003 inside, complete files for 19 German women, Morrison's mistranslation incident, Schmidt's linguistic analysis, X-ray documentation, TB diagnosis, everything. Die Wahrheit kam zu spät für sie, aber nicht zu spät für uns. Truth came too late for them, but not too late for us. Weber contacts families. 12 are still alive. 7 families of the undocumented women. 5 families of the documented women who already knew the truth. The 7 families learn for the first time their mothers, grandmothers, aunts were victims of mistranslation, not collaborators. The shame they carried for 58 years was based on catastrophic linguistic failure, not willing participation. Helga's nephew reads the files, discovers his aunt died in shame for something that never happened. We disowned her. We believed the rumors. We had no idea. Marguerite's daughter learns her mother lived under a false name to escape accusations of something she didn't do. She never told me. She carried this alone. For 39 years. Elise's niece discovers why her aunt never married, never socialized, never spoke of the war. The family cut her off. She died alone, and she was innocent the entire time. Archive boxes open to reveal age papers. 58 years of secrets. 58 years of truth that could have saved 7 women from lives of shame. Museum display lights now illuminate the documents. Descendants' tears fall on glass cases protecting evidence that arrived too late for the women, but not too late for historical truth. Average 58 years between event and vindication. 7 women died carrying shame. 12 families now learn the truth. Historical record corrected, but lives already destroyed. Get undressed. I'll be gentle. 7 words that made 19 women believe the worst was coming. 7 words that became a lesson in how language kills, how assumptions destroy, and how sometimes your enemy's records tell the truth your own country refused to hear. When a misunderstood order makes you prepare to comply with something horrific, are you a victim or a participant? If documentation from your enemy proves your innocence decades later, does that make their truth more valuable than your own country's silence? Comment below. In war, sometimes the most dangerous weapon isn't a gun. It's a word spoken wrong.